هذا كتاب أنزلناه مبارك فاتبعوه واتقوا لعلكم ترحمون.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Surah Al-An'am and verse number 70 from the Tafseer of Imam Sa'di rahimahullah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وذر الذين اتخذوا دينهم لعبا ولهوا وغرتهم الحياة الدنيا وذكر به أن تبسل نفس بما كسبت ليس لها من دون الله ولي ولا شفيع وإن تعدل كل عدل لا يؤخذ منها أولئك الذين أبسلوا بما كسبوا لهم شراب من حميم وعذاب أليم بما كانوا يكفرون. The translation of the ayah: and leave those who take their religion as amusement and diversion, and whom the worldly life has deluded. But remind with it, lest a soul be given up to destruction for what it earned. It will have other than Allah no protector and no intercessor. And if it should offer every compensation, it would not be taken from it. Those are the ones who are given to destruction for what they have earned. For them will be a drink of scalding water and a painful punishment because they used to disbelieve. So here this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَرِ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَعِبًا وَلَهْوًا. First, we'll go through the tafsir. But you see in front of you the tafsir of Imam Sa'di rahimahullah. He said, Al-Maqsudu min al-ibad, which means the objective. This is Al-Maqsud. Al-Maqsud is the objective, the goal, what's meant by. So what is the objective of the ibad? What is the objective of this life from the human beings? أن يخلصوا لله الدين. That they make ikhlas, sincerely, purely the deen to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بأن يعبدوه وحده لا شريك له. بأن يعبدوه وحده. And that is by worshipping him وحده alone subhanahu wa ta'ala لا شريك له. He has no partners. ويبذلوا مقدورهم. And they would يبذلوا. This is a present tense from بذل يبذلوا. Al-badl is to give with generosity. You give from what you have, what you own, without waiting for return. And again, I'm going to read everything that is mentioned in the tafsir first, so that you follow, inshallah ta'ala, word by word, and then we can talk about more benefits, inshallah. So, وَيَبْذُلُوا مَقْدُورَهُمْ فِي مَرْضَاتِهِ. So they spend and they give. مَقْدُورَهُمْ. Al-maqdur is basically their capacity, their power. So al-qudra is the power, and qadir is the doer of the qudra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-qadir. Al-maqdur is what the action is that is in their capacity. So for example, he says مقدور في مرضاته ومحبه. يبذلوا, they give from themselves what is in their capacity, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of Allah. So, for example, to understand the word maqdur, if someone is ordered to pray Salatul Fajr, and the maqdur here, that means what's the capacity, what's the action that is in the capacity of the doer of the action. If he's someone that is healthy, someone that can go to the masjid, he's a man, then this is his maqdur. That means he's able to do these things. Then he has to. He has to give whatever he has in his capacity. So for that individual, his maqdur is what he's able to do, seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And a person can do less than that, right? But he has the ability to do more. And what are the limits? What are the limits for a person to understand? First of all, we need to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, and that's the ilm. Then what is al-maqdur? Not from al-qadr. What's al-maqdur meaning? What's feasible for it to be done? And this is something that requires ilm, and also everything is about ilm actually, but knowing the situation of the person, the circumstances of the individual, with the ilm, a person would be able to know that whether this is in his maqdur or not. That means in his capacity or not. So go back again to the last word of the first line of the sharh of the tafsir. It says وَيَبْذُلُوا مَقْدُورَهُمْ فِي مَرْضَاتِهِ وَمَحَابِّهِ, to give and to spend from their capacity, from their ability, from their power, in the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, مرضاته ومحابه, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. وذلك متضمن. وذلك, what we just mentioned now, as he says, متضمن includes متضمن لإقبال القلب على الله. This is by الضمن, that means it's part of this. You cannot attain this, what has been mentioned before, that a person give whatever he has in his capacity to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, to seek the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That means what's included here is وَذَلِكَ مُتَضَمِّنٌ لِإِقْبَالِ الْقَلْبِ عَلَى اللَّهِ. إقبال القلب. Al-qalb is to go to the direction, to be devoted, going forward. Al-iqbal ala shay is when you give something its attention. It's now a time for you to read Quran. So your face is facing the mushaf, you're reading the Quran. You made iqbal with your heart upon this act that you're upon now, and not diverted. على الله وتوجهه لإقبال القلب على الله وتوجهه إليه. توجه is when you're facing something. So from al-wajh وتوجهه إليه to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وكون سعي العبد نافعا. وكون سعي العبد, and the fact that if the action of the abd نافعا وجدا لا هزلا, benefiting, and جدا, that means it's serious, not hazl, not amusement, not playing. وإخلاصا لوجه الله, and purely for the sake of Allah. لا رياء ولا سمعة. لا رياء ولا سمعة, not to show off, not to be heard of. هذا هو الدين الحقيقي. This is the real religion. الذي يقال له دين. This is the real religion that is to be called religion. فأما من زعم أنه الحق. So therefore, as for the one that زعم, claimed to be upon the truth, وأنه صاحب دين وتقوى, that he is صاحب دين, that means he is a person of deen and taqwa. وقد اتخذ دينه لعبا ولهوا, and he took his religion لعبا ولهوا, play and amusement. And we'll talk about that more inshallah ta'ala, and what that exactly means. So he took his religion, and the apparent meaning here is that al-la'ib wal-lahu, playing and amusement, is his religion. This is one of the meanings of it. وقد اتخذ دينه لعبا ولهوا. You would find the person, the deen is what moves you, what gets you to do things, what gets you to act and live and work and get married and have relationships and so on. This is what deen governs everything in one's life. So someone makes his religion al-la'ib wal-lah. His goal of life is to play and to have amusement. It's to basically have fun in this world. وقد اتخذ دينه لعبا ولهوا بأن لها قلبه. How is that? That his heart, laha, from al-lahu, his heart is being diverted. And that's what the amusement or these types of things divert the heart from, if there's a good side to it, from the stresses. Why people would go have some level of amusement and fun and so on, is to divert the heart from the seriousness and the stress of this life. So laha qalbuhu an mahabbatillah, when the heart is diverted away from the love of Allah, wa ma'rifatihi, and knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa aqbala ala kulli ma yadurru. Wa aqbala, and instead aqbal, that means he's facing, he's going forward, he is directed to, is devoted to, على كل ما يضره, to be upon everything that is harming him. ولها في باطله, ولها, that means he's having the lahu, the amusement in his batil, in his falsehood. ولعب فيه ببدنه, and he played in that, with that regard, with his own physical body. This is ببدنه. So the heart is lahu, in lahu, state of lahu, and his body is in state of play. Physically playing, heart is diverted away. He says, لأن العمل والسعي إذا كان لغير الله فهو لعب. That's what he's saying, because the amal, this is the, as you see in the next page in the first slide, العمل والسعي, the action, السعي, diligently working. If it's for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فهو لعب. This is how we have to define things. If the action and the sa'i is to other than Allah, for other than Allah, whether it's ibadah, that means it's kufr. If it's not ibadah, if it's a worldly matter, if it's for the sake of other than Allah, then it's la'ib, it's playful, it's waste. So you can do the same thing, but it's all for the sake of Allah. Seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone to establish the purpose of life. He says, فَهَذَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى أَنْ يُتْرَكَ وَيُحْذَرُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded that this should be left away and to be warned against. وَلَا يُغْتَرُّ بِهِ, and a person should not be deceived by it. أو وَلَا يُغْتَرَّ بِهِ, that means it should not be means of deception. وَتَنْظُرَ حَالَهُ, if someone is upon this, then you look at his affairs. وَيُحَذَّرْ مِنْ أَفْعَالِهِ, and to be warned against his actions. وَلَا يُغْتَرَّ بِتَعْوِيقِهِ عَمَّا يُقَرِّبُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. وَلَا يُغْتَرَّ, and also there's no deception should be بِتَعْوِيقِهِ. التعويق from al-i'aqa, from being hindered, from being prevented, from having the inability from what brings the person closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is from the ayah, from the beginning of the ayah, وَذَرِ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَعِبًا وَلَهُ. Dhar, that means leave them, turn away from them. And the Prophet ﷺ has been commanded to give them da'wah, has been commanded to enjoin good and forbid evil. So to turn away from them, we'll talk about it at the end, inshallah, but let's first continue what is being mentioned here. So pay attention first, inshallah ta'ala, to the wordings of the tafsir. He said, وَذَكِّرْ بِهِ, and remind. ذَكِّرْ, this is a command. وَذَكِّرْ بِهِ, and make tadhkir, remind, bihi, by it, meaning أي ذكر بالقرآن. So remind them with the Quran. لا ينفع العباد, what benefits the ibad, أمرا وتفصيلا وتحسينا له. أمرا, commanded, تفصيلا, in details, تحسينا له, to beautify it, بذكر ما فيه, by mentioning what's in it, من أوصاف الحسن, by mentioning what's in it from the characteristics of al-husn, or beauty and goodness. وما يضر العباد نهيا عنه وتفصيلا لأنواعه. And what harms the ibad, you do that نهيا عنه, to forbid them from it. وتفصيلا لأنواعه, tafsil is the details, to all of its types and kinds. وبيان ما فيه من الأوصاف القبيحة, and to make the bayan, the clarity, the explanation of what's in it from al-awsaf, the descriptions, the characteristics of al-qabiha. Al-qabiha is the ugly ones, is the not the proper ones. وما فيه من الأوصاف القبيحة وكل هذا وأوصافه القبيحة الشنيعة. وأوصافه القبيحة الشنيعة. And the awsaf and the characteristics that is qabiha, that is ugly, that is not proper, ash-shani'a. Ash-shana'a is when something is very clearly to be abhorred and to be looked down upon. Not something light. الداعية لتركه that it's by itself calls the person to leave it away and to stay away from it. وكل هذا لئلا تبسل نفس بما كسبت. Continuing with what the verse is saying, all of that so that no nafs tubsal, as the word tubsal is mentioned in the ayah. So that the nafs is not tubsal bima kasabat, not to be tubsal by what it earned. What that means, أي قبل اقتحام العبد للذنوب, before the abd indulge into the sins, وتجرؤه, to have the audacity to do sins and to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, على علام الغيوب, against the knower of the unseen, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, واستمراره على ذلك, and for him to continue to be upon this, على ذلك المرهوب, to be upon what's marhub, what's to be feared, which is the sins and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So فذكرها وعظها, so remind this type of nafs, remind these individuals, وعظها, and admonish the nafs, admonish oneself, لترتدع وتنزجر. لترتدع, الردع is when someone is pushed away with force, when you force yourself to be away from what is evil. وتنزجر, الزجر is the same thing, but الردع sometimes with physical actions, الزجر is with scolding someone with one's speech. وتكف عن فعلها, and to stay away from its فعل, from its actions. He says وقوله ليس لها من دون الله ولي ولا شفيع. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here in the ayah ليس لها, does not have, meaning the soul, from it, من دون الله, from other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ولي ولا شفيع, no protector, no intercessor. He says قبل أن تحيط بها ذنوبها, before its sins encompasses the person, goes around them. ثم لا ينفعها أحد, then no one would benefit it, من الخلق, from the creation of Allah. لا قريب ولا صديق, no relative, no friend. ولا يتولاها من دون الله أحد, and no one other than Allah would protect it, would support it, would help it. ولا يشفع لها شافع, and no intercessor will intercede for it. وإن تعدل كل عدل, and if it تعدل كل عدل, if it's trying to ransom itself with any means of ransoming, أي تفتدي بكل فداء. العدل here is the ransom. When someone would give something to save himself from trouble, when someone would give money to save himself from prison, for example, this is ransom. Either to be imprisoned or to give money. Then he would give money to save himself from prison, or to give something to save himself from being killed or whatever. So وَإِن تَعْدِلْ كُلَّ عَدْلٍ, in the day of judgment, this nafs that has been encompassed with all kinds of evil, if it try to ransom itself with any matter, with any fida, ولو بملء الأرض ذهبا, even if it's the earth filled with gold, لا يؤخذ منها, it's not going to be taken from it. That means لا يقبل, it's not going to be accepted. ولا يفيد, and it's not going to be of any benefit. أولئك الموصوفون بما ذكر, those who are given this description of what has been mentioned. الذين أبسلوا, الذين أبسلوا أي أهلكوا. The أبسلوا means they have been perished, destroyed. وأيسوا من الخير, which is basically al-halak, destruction. And they gave up of any goodness, meaning there is no chance for them with any goodness. وذلك بما كسبوا, that is because of what they've earned. لهم شراب من حميم, they have sharab, their drink is from hamim, from the boiling water. أي ماء حار, ماء حار قد انتهى حره. انتهى حره, that means it cannot be hotter than that, the end of it. يشوي وجوههم, burns their faces. ويقطع أمعاءهم, and tears their stomachs and their insides. وعذاب أليم بما كانوا يكفرون, and severe punishment as a result of their kufr and disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as you see here, now we finished reading the tafsir. I want you, inshallah ta'ala, build up what is being mentioned. Let's go back again and see what is meant by the verse and what actions needs to be done. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he says وَذَرِ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَعِبًا وَلَهْوًا, leave those who took their religion play and amusement. Dhar, right? It depends on the context and how we use it. So here, وَذَرِ الَّذِينَ, that means you leave them. Turn away from them. Give them, as Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, he says, أَمْهِلْهُمْ قَلِيلًا. Give them respite because they are returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet alayhi salatu, do not make them affect you. Do not make your heart attached to them. Even though he's still commanded to advise them, to admonish them. So this is وَذَرْ, this is فِعْلَ أَمْر. This is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By the way, this fi'l does not have any madi or past or so on. But anyway, so leave them. Do not mix with them, as the previous verses. Remember the previous verses, not to mix with them when they indulge into things that are sinful or haram. This is also part of that. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, ذَرْنِي وَمَنْ خَلَقْتُ وَحِيدًا, leave me and what I've created to be lonely. فَذَرْنِي وَمَنْ يُكَذِّبُ بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ, ذَرْنِي, leave me and those who deny the truth. That means don't pay attention to them. Do not be concerned too much about the meaning. Like لَا تُبَالِي بِهِمْ. Do not make your heart so much afflicted by the fact that you're so much worried about them. Do not be so much concerned of their serious and continuous deviation, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is their khaliq, is their creator subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you do your job, convey the message to them, advise them, admonish them, as the verse would said and other verses in the Quran. Why? Because if a person, what is being forbidden here, if the Prophet ﷺ or the believers, their heart are so much occupied, what happened? It would divert their heart from what they've been created for. It becomes a personal thing. It becomes, or a person is not able to do what Allah commanded him to do because he is terrified, he's sad, he's grieving, he is so much concerned about them. Compromise the religion maybe. This is not the goal, it's only a mean. So, الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ, as we said, those who took their religion, that means their religion is play and amusement. Or they make their religion as a play and an amusement, that means they don't take it seriously. Right? It did not say those who اتخذوا اللهو واللعب دينا. It did not say that those who took the lahu and the amusement and the play as religion. Right? Because they did not make, this is how the reality of the people, they don't make every lahu, every amusement and play as a religion, as a way that this is their life is about this. But rather, their deen, the thing that their objective of this life, and the things that concerns them, they would, if it's other than the truth, falls into the same category. Or the thing that is supposed to be deen, they would make mockery of it by play amusement. Right? So the deen is never to be matter of la'ib and lah. Right? So this is a very also serious matter, that people do not make the deen la'ibun wa lah. You do not bring the people together for play and amusement in the name of the deen. Right? La'ib and lahu, yes, as far as the body is in need of this. And we have in the Prophet ﷺ the best example, which means to relax, to do what's halal, to the word play, to do sports, to do something, fun and all of these types of things. This is all permissible as long as with the conditions of it, that it's not haram, that it does not divert the person away from the obligations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered the person to be upon, and it's not mixed with religion. That's why, for example, even when the ulama, they would talk about some of the actions of the people, they would mix their play with religion. When someone make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him the lead in a soccer game, and this is his concern, and he makes the qiyamul layl so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him victory. Victory in what? You're making religion as a way of play. Go play soccer, no problem. And have the intentions that you're having, to be physically fit, without taking over the times of the salah, to be moderate in this. And it's important, yes, to be fit and to be strong and to this and that, but without committing sins, but not to make it religion, not to make it, this is, of course, if it's understood in the proper way. So وَذَكِّرْ بِهِ, as we said, is to remind them with the Quran. And تبسل نفس تبسل, as we heard, is to be given in giving oneself to its own destruction, right? They always give the meaning of tubsal like al-Islam lil-halaka, al-Islam as an action, not as al-Islam as a religion. When someone submit himself to his own destruction, why would someone sane do this? So this is basically, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not or turn away from those who took their religion as play and amusement. Otherwise, أن تبصر نفس بما كسبت, then a nafs would submit itself to its own destruction with what it earned of actions. ليس لها من دون الله ولي ولا شفيع. Then there's no protection from Allah. Why? Because they turned away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وإن تعدل كل عدل لا يؤخذ منها. And if they try to ransom, it's never going to be accepted from it. أولئك الذين أبسلوا بما كسبوا. They are the ones that submitted themselves to their destruction because of what they've earned. Because of what they've earned. So the word تبسل نفس here, which is basically the submitting oneself to one's destruction. This is what al-ibsal means. Also, it gives the meaning of when someone imprisoned himself. If someone is in prison. And al-basl is when something is being deprived from, or the haram. The haram, something that is forbidden. So all of that by one's earning. Person earns what's haram, what's forbidden, that can take the person away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. أولئك الذين أبسلوا بما كسبوا لهم شراب من حميم وعذاب أليم بما كانوا يكفرون. They have, as we heard, شراب من حميم and عذاب أليم as a result of what they've earned from their own selves. So this is what is mentioned here also in the Tafseer, and how the maqsood and the objectives of the ibadah is mentioned, and how that objective should never be contradicted with any actions in this life. And there's no religion whatsoever that is based on play and amusement. Religion is a serious matter, and for people to be serious, and these are the ones that have the best joy in this life. So for those who might hear this and they say, oh, religion has no fun and things like this, the fun is for those who are serious. But for those who are, their objective is the fun and the amusement, this is children. Children, yes, I can do that. Other than them, your seriousness of your life will bring you the comfort and the ease and the happiness. And this is something that is well established in the dunya matters. If someone, who are the ones that enjoy the most when they do some fun activities, are those who are busy in life. So people work hard, and then when they take a break, they're enjoying their break more than those who are in a break the entire day. They get bored, they get, so this is how the same thing with this life. This life is a serious one. The objective of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and to turn away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to do. One last thing is, inshallah, with this verse, وَذَرِ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ, turn away from those who took their religion as mockery and play. This is another hukm from Allah. So this is another command from Allah, as mentioned before, to turn away from those who indulge in the ayat of Allah. Before is al-i'rad was the command. إذا رأيت الذين يخوضون في آياتنا فأعرض عنهم. If you see those who indulge in the ayat of ours, then turn away from them. So the hukm was to turn away al-i'rad, physically not to be with them if they're committing sins. Here, وَذَرِ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَعِبًا وَلَهْوًا. This is to turn away with your heart from those who took their religion as a matter of play and amusement. So not to be concerned, not to be focused upon this, and to warn oneself against what is being mentioned. We'll stop here, inshallah ta'ala, because of the time. Is this about haram entertainment only, or the mubah entertainment as well? First of all, the entertainment is just a side note here to the ayah, because the ayah refers to the disbelievers and how they're They make mockery of the religion, and their life is about this. So, as a side note to this, entertainment, if it's mubah, if it's permissible, and it doesn't take over something that is an obligation in one's life, then of course it's not permissible. So it has to be permissible. It has to be not taken over other rights in one's life. And what's very important is, what's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of entertainment? It's for a person to rest so that he's able to continue the serious work of the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to establish the 5 daily salah, to be obedient to Allah. This is what is meant. Not that it's a goal in itself. The attendance code is وإخلاصا لوجه الله. وإخلاصا لوجه الله, and sincerely for the sake of Allah. Does this ayah generally refer to disbelievers, or does it include deviated Muslims as well? This is a very good and important question, because we said that the principle, one of the principles in the tafsir of the ayat, if the ayat talks about the disbelievers, asalat, and that means originally it talks about the disbelievers, then it's to be understood with that regard. But if it's mentioned the disbelievers because of the characteristics that they have, that means it also addresses the believers if they commit these characteristics in the level of sins, then also they are to be warned from the perspective of sins. So again, the disbelievers, when they took their religion as play and an amusement, right? This is in the disbelieving category of things. For the believers, if someone, his heart is in forgetfulness, and he's still a believer and everything like this, but he's committing sins as a result of play and amusement, they're also addressed by this ayah, but in the category of sin, not in the category of disbelief. And as you know, which is also a very serious matter here, when you see the religion of Islam and our daily obligations, the 5 daily salah, the adhkar to be said in the morning and in the evening, and so on, we are in constant reviving and renewing our covenant with Allah. And relate that to what's mentioned in Ma'arij al-Qabul about al-Mithaq, because human beings, they forget. They're constantly forgetting. That's why this religion is perfect. So if someone is, imagine someone, not to imagine someone, if someone is making the 5 daily salah the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from that person, is constantly reminded. And the same thing with the adhkar. That person, you would rarely find him establishing this forgetfulness, because he's constantly in that state of renewing and reviving his iman and his covenant with Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts it. Is this about haram? No. So this is, again, can you give an example from life of how to practice? Now, as mentioned, we're living in a time where Allahu wal-la'ib, or amusement and play, is an industry. It's the objective of many people. And life becomes just a big joke for them. And the ibadah or the deen, it might be just something on the side to bless their life. The life is the goal, and the religion is just something on the side to make the life have a good flavor to it. This is not the way that we're supposed to look into things. This is not what the Quran is telling us. It's supposed to be the other way around. Life is a serious one. We were created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the seriousness of it. We have obligations. We have 5 daily salah. We have haram to avoid. We have things. So as human beings, we cannot do one thing and to be serious all of our life, all of the day. Otherwise, we'll break. So we need to rest. We need to enjoy what Allah permitted for us. So the concept of entertainment, if it's correct to use the word, or play or amusement, in principle, there's nothing wrong with it, as long as it fulfills the conditions, which is it's mubah, it's permissible, it's not haram. It does not occupy one's time, that it's take over other rights in one's life, salawat and the like of this. So no haram is involved whatsoever, whether the entertainment is haram or to do it with haram. And people, for example, cussing and cursing each other while they're playing sports or, betting, whatever there is, missing their salawat and things like this. With all of that is to be observed, of course. And then you add to it that the heart becomes so much occupied with it that a person forget the purpose of his life. So if boys travel to different cities to play games, like soccer or basketball for league games, as they take these games very seriously, like playoffs, finals, etc., is that okay? If it's something that is benefiting for them and benefits their body, make them busy, and they don't miss their salawat, they make salah on time, mashallah, this is so far is good. But at the same time, right, they need to be taught that this is not the objective of that is wanted from them. This is in the category of play and amusement. This is not a profession to seek. This is not a job that a person wants to be upon. This is not the concept of victory versus loss. If a person loses, that means he did not lose anything. The loss is the loss of the matters of the hereafter, not the loss in a game, for example. So if it's done in that perspective, right, there's no harm. Then there's issues with the competitions if it's halal versus not. If we bring a cake for a 5-year-old child on his birthday without a celebration, is that haram? The fact that you bring the cake on the birthday, do you do that every day or every Friday, or this is very obviously a tashabbuh or imitating the disbelievers, or doing something haram is by the physical action regardless of the intention. So this is not something that happens like this without any tertib or any measures to be taken. So that means it should be avoided, of course. But never to mention there is something called birthday celebrations. There's no such a thing. Someone says, "Oh, I was born in the like of this day." MashaAllah, no problem. There's nothing added to one's life, no value added, nothing is, it does not mean anything. As some even said, that means you're closer to your death more than any other day before. But rather, bring the cake for no reason, in any other occasions, and make the fun and activities in our life based on achievements. So if he finished the surah, get a cake, have a party for it, mashallah, things like this. And the thing is the environment, to control the environments, because when the children, they see that in the kids' children, and they see that they celebrate their birthdays, then they feel that they have less than them. So this is where these types of things comes in place. So don't make them feel that they're inferior if they don't, or they have less goodness in this life, but rather this is all nonsense. And if a person is not into these types of environments, he would not feel it as a need. Does this ayah also refer to munafiqun, since joking about religion is a sign of nifaq? That's correct also, which is one of the characteristics, and they make mockery of the religion now. Barakallahu feekum. Anything else, inshallah? Is it okay to get together on Thanksgiving Day and have party, but saying we are not celebrating it, but just getting together, but they always get together on the specific day? How can it be avoided? If it's treated as a normal day of the year, then how would people do? And this is what they should act. It's like any other day. There is no significance to it whatsoever. Sometimes you would get together in a day that has no significance to it, just the fact that you get together. This is what's happening. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in the hearts. But also, if a person knows that on that day people are gathered for celebrations, then a person should avoid these types of things. Otherwise, it's not to be looked down upon as something of imitation of the ways of those who celebrate these things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it very spacious for us. Why we make it tight for us? Right? They only get together in this day or that day. Get together every day. Arrange something for your family, for them all to get together in a halal way. Even if it's not the Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. Say, for example, any day, pick a day, February 12th, 2025. I'm not sure even what's on that day. I'm just saying any day. And you would say, hey, let's get together on that day because everybody's off or this or that. And we'll do some activities together. This is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But once you start making it as a Eid, every year on February 25th, that would basically the day that we met together the first time. So we keep this every year because this is the day of happiness and goodness. Then this is, you're making a Eid, and that's not permissible. No. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us patience with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, with these types of things, again, it's because of the environment. So it's not that the religion is difficult. If a person is raised in an environment where these things does not exist, they don't even think about it. It does not cross their mind. You see, for example, here, for example, in Masjid al-Nabawi, the Prophet ﷺ, children are sitting in the circles memorizing the Quran, and they still being children, and they jump and this and that, and they don't think of what other children in other parts of the world are thinking. Maybe they do if they have smartphones. But what I'm saying is, it's what we raise ourselves, what we put ourselves in whatever environment. You would find enjoyment in whatever environment you put yourself in. And there is enough spaciousness and goodness and rest and happiness within the deen of Islam, within what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted. And this is what we need to invest in. So, anniversaries, birthdays, all of these things are not permissible for us to celebrate. Saying is celebrate. And this is part of the greed that I'm sorry to say that, but we are in. Right? Does the wife has to wait for a day called the day of anniversary for her husband to get her a gift? Why can't he get a gift for no reason? Just the fact that she is his wife. So he walks into the house with a gift. Oh, what happened? Why are you giving me a gift today? Oh, you need something, don't you? No, this is tahadu tahabbu. Right? And this is much higher of goodness than to wait for a day that is known to be this or that. And that's why the fact of the enjoyment that people would have, we need to do this regardless of the days. Right? So this is the point here. It's not like the anniversaries is haram and the birthdays is haram. So let's just have every day in our life, no parties, no fun, no whatever. No. Enjoying any other time doesn't have to be with Eids, with celebrations. With listening to the Quran through the headphones while in the bathroom, be considered mocking the Quran, or is that permissible as it is not played out loud? If you want to do that, then let it be outside of the bathroom, loud, and you can hear it in the bathroom. That's okay. But to have it inside, this is something that to be avoided, even if it's in ears. To avoid that. But rather keep it outside as loud, and you can hear it in the bathroom. And some of the early generations of Islam, they would do that sometimes, but with the condition that it doesn't make the person stay in the bathroom for a long time. Are these holidays and celebrations haram because celebrating would be imitating the disbelievers? It's because the fact that Eids or celebrations is religion. So, and that's by the statement of the Prophet ﷺ when he went to Al-Madinah and he saw that people are having 2 days where they celebrate. And the Prophet ﷺ forbade them. It was not religious holidays. So that people, those who say it's not religious, it doesn't have to be religious. It was just 2 days from the days of the Arab that they would celebrate. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Inna Allah abdalakum." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala replace these 2 days for you by Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. So that's why it's religion. So any Eid is the religion of the people, whether they call it religion, whether they call it national holiday or whatever there is, it's something to be avoided, only Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. Allahu Akbar. And of course, it's imitation of them. How should we respond to people when they try to bring false evidences that Thanksgiving is halal, especially when these people are known to others as a person on deen and the people listen to them? Well, this is fitna, and this is a trial, because it's a reality of life that some people might be ignorant of the religion, deviated away from the truth. This is something that is agreed upon the ulama of the ummah, right? That Ayad, Eid is only Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, celebrating a day that comes once every year. This is Eid. And it doesn't matter whether it's religious holiday or non-religious holidays. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they witnessed that in their times. And the Tabi'een and the Salaf and the Imam of the Deen. So these people, when they say these things, is all desires, is all reasoning that has nothing to do with the religion. The religion, we have Wahy, Quran, and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, based on the understanding of the early generations of Islam, not based on people that want to not to make anyone feel bad, for example. You know, this is making, I don't want to say making mockery of the religion, but the goal of the religion is to follow it, not to make people comfortable or whatever, things like this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. And we have to, as Ibn Sirin rahimahullah says, in هذا العلم دين, in هذا, فانظروا عمن تأخذون دينكم. This religion this knowledge is religion. So look who you're taking your religion from. We take our religion from the ulama. And from those who narrate what the ulama they say. Right? Other than that, we turn away from it. Inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Anything else, inshallah?